Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Welcome to the Armoury. Welcome to the Arsenal versus Brighton match preview. I've got two wonderful guests with me first. We've got G. How are we doing, G? But first, we're going to talk to Keith. Keith, how are you?
Good evening. I'm really, really good. Firstly, thank you very much for inviting me on. I watched quite a few of these shows, and it's always good. I've been bantering with Tony for ages about his love for Rob Holding. It's good to be here. So cheers for having me on.
My pleasure. Thank you, G, for approaching Keith as well and getting Keith on. G, how are you, mate? Not a long time no see.
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. It feels good to be back. I've had a lot of stuff going on in my personal life, which has just kind of required my focus and my priority. But obviously been supporting the team from backstage. But yeah, really good to be on the screen again, talking Arsenal, obviously with yourself, Bobby, and the legend that is Keith. We go way back from when obviously the first days, when I started, myself and Stephen started our original channel, Cannon Chatter. Keith was one of our third viewers, absolutely loyal. He became a member for a short period of time. So yeah, it's great to have him on. So yeah, man, I'm all good, man. I'm looking forward to the show.
Brilliant stuff. Before we get into the talking about the game, talking to Tony. Here is Tony. Greetings, my brother. Thrilled to know that Uncle Keith is in the house this evening. I'll catch up later as I'm finishing off the Spanish supply of rum. He is currently Captain Jack. And evening to Brenny, evening gents, and to all in. Great to see you, G Talks. It is very good to see him. He hasn't been here for a while. So I will start with you, Keith. How are you feeling about this weekend's game coming up? Are you nervous, excited, confident?
Always a mixture of nervous and excited. I go into every game with this sense of optimism, and I can already tell within the first 10 minutes what sort of game it's going to be. I'm just hoping that we are the Newcastle game version of us, and I'm hoping Brighton are the Everton game version of them. I'm a bit worried that they may have not peaked, but gone the opposite way a week too soon. But we'll see. I think we should, as long as we do what we need to do, we should have enough to take them out. But you never know, lads. You never know.
Exactly.
So, bit of both at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. G, what about you, mate?
I mean, it's a difficult one because I mean, we if we go back to obviously that set of four results, your Liverpool, your West Ham, what was it? After West Ham, it was Southampton, and then obviously the City game. Didn't exactly go to the script, didn't exactly go to plan. And I've got to be honest, I've had a lot going on in my personal life, one. But after I watched that City game, I kind of checked out of the title challenge, because up until that point, even with the dropped points, I thought to myself, you know what, if we can get a result against City, that will go a long way in, you know, just kind of cementing our position and obviously leaving it in our hands. But obviously getting thumped by them 4-1, I kind of thought, I kind of checked out of the whole title. And it wasn't a case that I was mad about it, because obviously I was disappointed we lost, but I was very much like, look, at the end of the day, we don't win the title, we don't win the title. It's still a good season. I was still trying to be positive and kind of look at the season as a whole rather than just 5 games, because I think sometimes it's very easy to do that. Just look at 4 recent games, and you just think, oh, the whole season's been a complete failure, which I don't think it has. So I wasn't really expecting much after that series of results. And then we go and absolutely dominate Chelsea. So one-sided. And lo and behold, we go to St. James's Park and again put in an absolutely phenomenal performance. And all of a sudden, confidence is back. You know, City have got, you know, quite a few games obviously in their calendar still, and there is a slight chance. So going into this game, I'll be honest, I'm not nervous at all. Not at all, because I just think right now the league title is not in our hands anymore. So regardless of even if we win all our games, there's a chance that City will win all their games and win the title. So I feel like, crazily, as much as I was a bit disappointed, I kind of feel like the pressure's kind of been taken off us a little bit, because we have been knocked off the top. City are now ahead of us, and it's up to them now to do their job in terms of getting the results, because if they don't, we could be the ones now chasing, potentially getting the results and kind of leapfrog them. So I'm not nervous at all. What I've seen in the Chelsea game and the Newcastle game has been very promising. I think we've been dominant in both those games. So it's just a case of what Keith said. We just got to see that Arsenal. If we see the Arsenal of the second half against West Ham or the first half against Southampton, we're going to lose. But we see the team that, you know, annihilated Liverpool for 40 minutes, battered West Ham for 40 minutes, came back from 3-1 down against Southampton. If we see that Arsenal that's dominated Chelsea and Newcastle in the last 2 games, then I think we win this game comfortably. So I'm not nervous at all. I'm looking forward to it. And I think we'll get a result.
Okay, fair enough. These are the previous fixtures with Brighton at home. They all go back all the way to 1979 due to the fact Brighton were missing for quite a while from the top league. The last time they played us, they beat us 2-1, and they beat us 2-1 back in 2019. We've only played them 27 times in our whole history, beaten them 15, but lost 7. So they're not an easy team in history-wise for us. Looking at that, does that change your... I know what you always think, G, but does that change your opinion?
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. And I just think that's based on... I think it's the case all season, is that if we are on point, you know, both mentally and physically on the pitch in terms of the way we play and the way we perform, I think we'll get the result. I think it's clear when Arsenal are not at the races. You know, when we're that yard off, it's kind of obvious and evident from like almost like the first 5 or 10 minutes. You just know that it's going to be a long day. So I think if we turn up and we approach the game right, our minds are right, and we play the football we can play, as good as Brighton are, we can beat Brighton. We're at home, we've got a decent home record. So yeah, it doesn't. I mean, football is just so unpredictable. It's just like, you know, you look at, I was sitting at home last bank holiday Monday, watching the game, expecting Brighton to deliver an almighty arse whooping to Everton. And I was gobsmacked that Everton absolutely annihilated them 5-1. So literally anything can happen in this game, because Brighton can turn up as prime Barcelona, as they do most weeks in the Premier League, or they could turn up how they did against Everton, and we could absolutely run away with it. So I have a feeling they're going to turn up. So as long as we turn up, I think we are a better side than Brighton. So as long as we're clinical, I think we'll get the results. So yeah, previous fixtures, I don't think will have any bearing on this match at all.
What about for you, Keith?
Yeah, I agree with G actually. I don't think previous fixtures will have much to do with it. I don't think they've got a sign over us or anything that's going to like stick in the players' minds. It purely is going to be which version of us turns up, and if the nice version of us turns up, then we should have enough in the tank to take them apart. Being clinical in front of goal is going to be a huge element. Bakayo's been a little bit off the boil recently, but I can't remember the last time the kid had a break, to be honest, but with various international duties and stuff, and he's looking tired at the moment. And then you've got the potential impact of Trossard, whatever role he plays in the game. He could well be pivotal because by all accounts he didn't leave on the greatest terms. So that could add a little bit of needle. Obviously, their fans will probably be on his case, whichever role he plays in the game. But no, I mean, Jesus, that goes back a long way. 1979, I was a young man then. But I mean, looking at it, like you said, Bobby, there's a huge gap where they were not in the top flight.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think any of that has any impact on Sunday's game, to be honest, mate.
I think I'd probably do this slide just for me because I just love looking at the history. And the first time we played was 1935, and me and Brenny were talking about it the other day. It's just history. I just love it. I just love seeing how many times we've played the team. I was shocked it was only 27 times because I kind of considered Brighton as quite a good big club, but they're not really. Really, it's recent that they've become a big club. So previous fixtures, as G did cast upon earlier about Brighton's previous fixture against Everton. We'll go on to Brighton's first. So they have, last game was a heavy defeat against Everton. They beat Man United at home, annihilated a vacant Wolves, lost to Nottingham Forest, then beat Chelsea. So they've had a very mixed bag. We'll go over to ours. Obviously, a very good performance against Newcastle, beating them 2-0. Very dominant performance against Chelsea, beating them 3-1. Lost to City. We'll just move over that. The Southampton one, we'll grab that point now after seeing that performance. And the West Ham 2-2. So previous fixtures very mixed, I'd have to say. Let's go on to their season performances. So we're going to go on to Brighton. Solly March, who I will talk about in a minute. We have got an injury list now. There's a new slide that I've done. He's actually injured. So, but he has been their top performer. Average goals scored for the team is 1.91 compared to ours of 2.37. Average goals conceded 1.36 compared to our 1.11. They've only had 11 clean sheets. We've had 13. Created chances, that's the important one for me, is 2.12 for Brighton. You can tell they've got Danny Welbeck up front. Chances created for us is 1.97. Sorry, I had a little dig there. I had to do it. But injury list-wise, these are our injury list. Obviously, Zinchenko is a little bit of a question mark now after Arteta's press conference. But I'd done that slide before he talked about it. So he's still on there because I don't expect to see him tomorrow. It wouldn't surprise me if it's an absolute masterstroke by Arteta again, just trying to wind people up. But as for Brighton, they are missing a lot more important people. Mwepu, I haven't put on there, but obviously his career's finished, unfortunately. I felt wrong putting his name in there, but I do want to mention it. I hope he, finds some way of playing again because it is, I think it's a cardiac issue, isn't it? I think for Mwepu, and such a talent as well. I would have loved him at Arsenal, so it's a shame, but it is what it is. We've got Solly March there, Lamptey, Sarmiento, Moda, Veltman, and Lallana. So they are missing some very important players. I think Solly March is the biggest miss from Brighton for me. And a lot of people don't like him, but I think he's very talented. I'm surprised. I think he's English, isn't he, Keith?
He is, yeah. He's local to Brighton. I think he was born in Eastbourne.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's a local lad.
I'm surprised he's never had any links with playing for England whatsoever.
It could be one of those where he doesn't play for the right club, couldn't it? We look at the the organisation and the old boys network, and it still happens. But yeah, he's always been a solid performer. Yeah, I agree. Thought he'd at least
Yeah.
make squads in his time.
But what I'm going to do, as I always do, I have my 5 to watch. We will talk about my 5 to watch now. That guy's got skills. I had to put that video on there because that guy's got skills. Right, so Pascal Gross, he's had a fantastic season. I can't say I'm the biggest fan of him, but I do think he's been so important for Brighton, as always. That's his ratings. He played DM, but his goals and assists, considering he's more of a defensive midfielder, it's pretty impressive. 9 goals, 8 assists. And you'll see, compared to another midfielder that I've also got, that is impressive. Because that's not far from Odegaard, is it really? From his Odegaard. No. And Odegaard plays more attacking. And this guy is defensive.
Yes, that's good.
We've got Alexis McAllister. And yes, that is how you spell his surname. I don't know why it's split, but for some reason it is. 35 appearances this season, 12 goals, 2 assists. Likelihood he will be leaving this summer, most likely to Liverpool. Moses Caicedo. This is the one I do want to compare to Pascal Gross, mainly because he's been linked with us. Played 38, only got 1 goal, 1 assist, and he plays DM but midfielder, but he's only got 1 goal, 1 assist. Would you want Pascal Gross over him?
Not for me.
No, fair enough. And the last, no, I've got 2 more. We've got Matoma. Had to put him in there. He's sensational. No one knew of him before he went to Brighton. Let's be honest, no one did. I didn't. I know a lot about football, and that guy just crept up on me. 10 goals, 7 assists. He's going to be dangerous this weekend. And I had to put a defender in here because Lewis Dunk is someone that again doesn't get the mentions he deserves. Absolutely hard man. Love him to bits. Absolutely fantastic.
Real problem from set pieces as well.
Yeah, exactly. I know he's only got 2 goals, but he's such a trouble. Everyone's focus is on him.
Yeah.
So that's where they find gaps and someone else will score. But Lewis, and I know Colwell's had a very good season there as well, but I had to go with Lewis because I just don't think he gets the credit that he deserves. And I have spoke to a Brighton personnel person, I shall call them that. Sarah Gold, big up to this is what her predicted lineup is for the game. She's gone for Jason Steele in goal, Lewis Dunk, Levi Colwell, Estupinan. Me and G were talking about that before the stream. Pascal Gross, Caicedo, Gilmore, McAllister, Matoma, and Ciso, and Ferguson. This is what she's gone for. Now, Keith, looking at that team, do you see what are their strengths in that team that you can see?
Do you know, I really like Evan Ferguson. I know he's still a baby, really, isn't he? But every time I see him play, he's just got this presence about him. And if he keeps on the path that he's on at the moment, he's going places. I've seen reports that United are after him. Billy Gilmore's another one. He's a solid player. He's good with the ball at his feet. I'm surprised. I was looking at Brighton's formations earlier, and it's very much mirrors ours. And the fact that Pascal Gross, with his 17 goal involvements, he's playing right back at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to watching Caicedo and seeing. I think he'll get a better reception from the Emirates faithful than Mr. Mudryk did against us. Even though he made it quite clear, I think that he wanted to come to us in the transfer window. But I'm looking forward to watching him. Obviously, I don't want him to play too well. He's one I'm looking out for. But yeah, Evan Ferguson is one that sticks out for me. He looks like he's got something about him, that one.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to go for weaknesses now, G. What weakness can you see in that Brighton team?
I don't see a lot of weakness, if I'm completely honest. I think the weakest part of that squad, on paper and from what I've seen, which could probably be backed up by their recent game against Everton, is the defence. I think they've got a decent front three. I think their midfield 3 are pretty strong. You know, you could argue, Matoma and Ferguson would walk into most Premier League starting 11s, bar maybe the top kind of 3 or 4 sides in the league. They would walk into most teams, first 11. And arguably McAllister and Caicedo the same. And even the likes of Gilmore, he would be a decent squad player in most other squads. So I think up front and in midfield, they're pretty strong. I think they are more than a match for us in those 2 areas. I'm not to say that their defense isn't, but if I was going to look at any part of that side, it would be the defense. Like I would say of the 4 kind of areas, goalkeeper, defense, midfield, and attack, I would say, yeah, we can get at that defense. A front three of Martinelli, Trossard, Jesus, or whether that's Saka in there or Eddie or Nelson, wherever front three we go with, I think they should fancy their chances against that back four. And when you look at the way Everton picked them apart on the counter-attack, there is, if I was an Arsenal offensive player, I would be absolutely, rubbing my hands together because they seemed very, very vulnerable on the counter-attack. And we can play possession football, but we can also hit teams very, very quickly on the counter. So yeah, I would say in terms of a weakness, I would say the back 4.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Before we go into our lineups, which I've asked everyone to do, I want to get into the comments because they are starting to build up a little bit. Big up to Moss, Mr. Little. You could just rewind it, mate. Honestly, you won't have missed much. No Brenny or Moss. We need some 74. Maybe Keith is 74. It is very rude to ask someone's age, so I'm not going to even ask Keith. You say 73.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Smash on the forms, exactly. Thank you very much. Yes, there is a challenge. There's always a challenge, Mosh. You know this. Predictions, maybe. Yes, there'll be predictions at the end. Silver Tony having rain in Spain. Big up to Tony, anyway. Big up to Citizen Kane. Greetings and salutations to the panel and all in the chat. What's my saying here? Matoma, Estupan. Next one, Cifuentes. I am calling Brighton to get. He's on about a South American that plays for LAFC, who he highly recommends. I highly recommend because that's my American team, so I do know how good he is. Brenny is unfortunately working, but I hope work isn't too bad. Saying hi to each other. Let's try and go through some of them. He's also agreeing with you about Evan Ferguson. Martinelli needs to exploit Pascal Gross being up there. Yep. Okay, no chat, but sorry, boss. I just when we're just on the chat, I don't want to go through the comments at the same time. I like to big up people, without talking over people. To be fair, old Gooner. He's calling you an old Gooner, Keith. That's just
right.
I don't know how you should take that as a compliment or not. But it is what it is. But yeah, we're going to get into our lineups. Obviously, I have asked everyone to do them, but here they are.
Head down, push forward through the tough times, cause anything we're doing is a tough climb, and I ain't gonna give up.
Okay, so I've put Keith's up here first. Geez, yours will be next. You didn't go for the same team. Keith, you went with Ramsdale, White, Kivior, Gabriel, Tierney, Jorginho, Xhaka, Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, and Jesus. And you did go for Tierney before we knew about Zinchenko. So please go ahead and explain why you chose this lineup, please, Keith.
Okay, that's the major one for me, I suppose, is the left back spot. I love Zinchenko as a footballer. He actually was the signing of the summer I was most excited about. And early on, I was super impressed with him. I do think as a footballer, I mean, I love him as a footballer. I'm just not loving him as a defender currently. He's a much better midfielder than he is a defender. And the recent games, top of my head, there was the Liverpool's equaliser, West Ham's equaliser, Theo's goal against us for Southampton. And when Ramsdale made that wonderful save against Newcastle last week, he just seems to be switching off a little bit at the back stick, and that could be costing us. I mean, I don't know what's going on in his life. I mean, Jesus, the guy's Ukrainian. I've no idea what he's having to put up with at the moment. And maybe he's just tired. We were chatting before, weren't we? He didn't get a full season ever at Man City. He was always like playing second fiddle to Cancelo when he was there, and then obviously he's come to us, and he had a bit of an injury at the start of the season, and he's put a hell of a shift in. But I think it's just time. And the last time I saw Tierney play, he started. You can see he's been trained in the inverted role, which obviously is Arteta's preferred, and that's what he's going to stick with. I just think, from the point of view of our defence, and even though Kiwior's come in and done absolutely brilliantly, way better than I thought he would do so quickly, it's just another quality defender. And if there were a situation where we needed to go 3 at the back, that's his role for Scotland, is something he's used to. And for another reason, I don't want to see him go. There's lots of chat about him going in the summer because he's not getting the game time, but you never hear about him moaning whenever he comes on in whatever capacity. He always conducts himself in the right manner, and the manner that we would expect at our football club. And I've been a big fan of his for ages, to be honest. And I just think even if Zinni wasn't injured, I'd have given him the nod for this game and maybe for the running as well.
Yeah, 100%. G, what do you think of this lineup? You happy with this? If this was the team that was selected on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think the vast majority of the side picks itself. So I think my team is very similar, to this team. I think for large parts of the season, I would have gone with obviously, Partey over Jorginho, but I have to agree with Arteta. He's not been himself. He's not been as good as we know he can perform in recent games. I think he was one of the senior players that I think sections of the Arsenal fan base, including myself, felt somewhat let down by in that run of games where we dropped quite a few points. There were moments when we really needed some of the senior players to kind of stand up and be counted, and it just wasn't quite there for whatever reason. So I think him being dropped and Jorginho coming into the side, I think has made a lot of sense. And it's almost like every time Jorginho has come into this team, he's performed. One could say that he's been somewhat maybe unlucky or undeserving to not actually be in the side. But having said that, we know how good Partey is when he's on form. The problem is, I think if Partey's not at the races, he looks an awful player. He's either exceptionally good or he's dreadfully bad. It's like there isn't really an in-between for Partey. I mean, the front three you can't argue with. I think that front three, if you're going to go with a front three, that would be a front three. And I think if you're going to change it, you'd throw Trossard in there for one of them. Other than that, that's kind of the 4 players that make that front three. I think Eddie and Nelson are kind of just thrown in here and there. But yeah, I can't argue with the front three. Midfield, Xhaka, Odegaard doing his thing. In terms of the defense, I think it picks itself. White's been great. Kiwior's been great since he's coming for Holding. We were saying offline or behind backstage that there's an argument in hindsight that he probably should have come into the team a lot sooner, maybe instead of Holding. But it is what it is. I think with KT, I originally went with Zinchenko. Just because I think he's so crucial to the way we play. I think that, yes, he's made mistakes. Yes, he's been in some games somewhat found out defensively, like you said, switched off, key moments that have cost us. At the same time, I think he is, if you look at the whole season as a whole, I think he is one of, if not the main reason why we are where we are. In terms of the way he plays that inverted left back role. The problem is, like you said, he is a better player going forward than he is defensively. So it's almost like it's just what you do in it. If you play with a player like him with his technical ability in that position, it's a bit like what Liverpool fans and stuff will say about Trent. What you get in terms of Trent offensively, but sometimes you're pulling out your hair in terms of what he does defensively. So it's just one of those things, if that's the way you're going to play. I don't believe KT offers us what Zinchenko can going forward, but he is defensively a lot better. So it is what it is. Having said that, I didn't go for Zinni, but yeah, KT is a quality, left back. One could argue he's not had nowhere near as many minutes as his quality suggests. He's come into the team, particularly against Newcastle, played a pivotal role was one of the reasons why we got the second goal to secure that match. So yeah, it's a really good team. If I see that lineup when we play Brighton, I would have no issues with it.
Awesome stuff. Before we go into G's team, we're just going to go through some comments quickly. Agree, Keith, well stated. So Moss agreeing with what Keith said earlier. Don't want to sell unless Newcastle want to give us 70 million. Citizen K, agree with Keith. I think Jorginho deserves the nod over Partey due to Partey's weak performances of late and Kivior over Holding all day long. He's proved himself a better player, in my honest opinion. All right, let's go on to G's team. Also chosen by other people, including Tim, Branike, James, Carlos, and Jack. You went for Ramsdale, White, Kivior, Gabriel, Tierney, Jorginho, Xhaka, Odegaard, Trossard, Martinelli, and Jesus. Explain, G.
Yeah. I mean, I mentioned, I spoke about these players a lot in Keith's lineup, so I won't go to town too much. But I think for me, I think there have been a few players that have not necessarily been at the races in recent games, particularly that series of games where we dropped a lot of points. And as much as I love him, and people know how much I love him, he's my favourite player in world football and at Arsenal, which is Saka. He's my star boy. At the end of the day, for me, you got to make changes where necessary. And I think it's been really difficult on Trossard. I think he came in January, he absolutely nailed it every single time he played. But because of the quality of our front three, I think he's been quite unlucky, to have the limited minutes that he's had, because, I don't think you could really say he's done anything wrong to be benched. It's just that the front three of Saka, Martinelli, and Jesus on their day and consistently this season have just been so good. But I'd like to see Trossard more. I think as we come into the last kind of 3-4 games of the season, it'd be nice to just see him a little bit more. But it is what it is. I completely understand if you go for somebody else. The midfield I kind of touched upon. We're doing the business in midfield. And again, the back four and the goalkeeper is the same. I did originally obviously pick Zinchenko, but I have no qualms in picking KT. KT's a quality left back. He's better defensively. I don't want him to leave at the end of the season. And I would just like him to stay. And next season, he will get more games. We're going to have to rotate our squad a lot more. We're going to be in the Champions League. And I think KT offers us something different to Zinchenko. And I think it's important to have variety and different players that you can bring on in different match scenarios, that could benefit us. So I'm not for selling him at all. I think if we entertain selling him, it's got to be an absolutely astronomical amount of money because he is that good. So yeah, that's the team I picked.
Fair enough. Moss saying here he would have gone for Tross for Saka, he considered for his team. Moss went for the same team as Keith did, just so everyone's aware. But yeah, it's a tricky one because I know you've just said that not a lot of them have done much wrong lately, but Saka hasn't been his normal exceptional self.
Yeah.
I should put it that way. So maybe Trossard could come in and do some. There is actually someone has done a lineup tonight which has done that. But we're making us strong on the right. I think there's 2 of them actually might have done it. We'll go on to the next team. This was chosen by Gumza and Richard. They went for Ramsdale, White, Kivior, Gabriel, Tierney, Jorginho, Xhaka, Odegaard, Jesus, Martinelli, and Trossard. Keith, on Sunday, how happy will you be with that team?
I wouldn't be against that team at all. I think Trossard is the key with all these different formations with the attack, because when G first asked me to send my lineup over, it was exactly the same as his. I had Trossard on the right because I'm the same. I mean, ESR's my guy, but I love Saka, and I think the kid just needs a rest. And lots of people are saying about, he's undroppable, he's the favourite, he's undroppable. And I don't want to see that. I want to see that he can be dropped. The reason I didn't put Trossard in is I don't know if I've ever seen him playing from the right yet. And also there's a couple of games where he started and he hasn't had the impact that he has as a sub. And I'd really love to see him have a massive impact against his old club. And I think with our front three, I mean, we've got them on the right, on the left, in the middle, but they can all interchange, which is the beauty of it. And the recruitment with these guys, with the defenders, has been so good because they can all interchange. We were talking earlier about the defenders that can all play in different positions. So those three there, more than happy with that. And you know that they would interchange with each other. And I mean, Jesus literally covers every blade of grass on the pitch anyway, so it doesn't really matter where you put that fella. Stick him at left back instead of KT, I suppose. But yeah, no, I wouldn't be upset with that lineup at all.
Good. What about you, G?
Yeah, not at all. I mean, it's pretty much the same with what we've kind of gone with. It's just the front three, and we know Trossard has come in. He's played that, kind of false nine position. He does it well. He can play across the front three. Jesus on the right hand side is very interesting. I had an online idea and discussion on Twitter, as I do from every now and then, which either goes down well or goes down badly. And I said I would be very tempted to. I know Jesus. I get the context. Jesus came to Arsenal to be the number 9, be the main man. Blah 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 blah. I know that, but at the same time, we know he can play across the front three, and he can play on that right hand side. And I did kind of put out there the idea of actually using him more of a wide player, particularly on the right in rotation with Saka, and then that would potentially allow us to bring in maybe a more, a more kind of traditional kind of type centre forward. So I have no qualms with Jesus playing on the right. I don't think we've done it enough, to be honest. I think there are times in this season when Saka has probably needed to be dropped, has needed to be rested or rotated, and we could have played Jesus on the right, and we could have had Eddie in the middle, or we could have played Martinelli in the middle and Nelson on the left or whatever. I just think we have been massively over reliant on Saka. This season, I think in previous seasons it's been unavoidable. We've had to play him because we've not had the depth. And don't get me wrong, Jesus has been injured for like 3-4 months in the season. But I just feel like even when we've had the depth, we haven't rested, rotated, or dropped Saka enough. We've almost relied on him this season as much as we've relied on him in previous seasons. So, and if you're playing that much football at his age, in terms of where he's at, because I think a lot of us forget how young he is still, and that he's nowhere near even hit his footballing prime. He will have drop-offs. We saw a similar drop-off with Martinelli. I think it was at the turn of the year, which was so good because when Trossard came in, all of a sudden you saw an uplift in form. So, I would be more than happy to see Jesus on the right. I would more than happy to see Jesus on the left. And I don't think we've distributed or played Jesus enough in those wide positions because his versatility is phenomenal. He's not an out-and-out centre forward, so we don't have to just keep pumping him in the number 9 position because he's not a traditional, orthodox, number 9. He can play literally across that front three. So seeing Jesus on the right, it's something I said a long, long time ago, and Twitter bashed me for it as they do. But I'd like to see him on the right. I would.
Citizen Kane saying here again, I agree with Keith and G. Zinni's better in the offence, and as an inverted wing back, we've missed KT's defensive prowess. It's a shame we can't mould the two into one. It's a shame about that for many players, I think, over the years. Moss agreeing with Citizen K. Moss liking, good shout. Respect and big up across to Moss. Man, this lineup. Oh, we're not even going to mention the Canadian striker because it's banned from my streams. Right, big up to Tony and Tolly for picking this squad. They went for Ramsdale, White, Kivior, Gabriel, Tierney, Jorginho, Xhaka, Odegaard, Saka, Trossard on the left, Jesus up front. So again, not much of a change. Thumbs up from both of you for this team. If it's because there's not much to talk about this one. We're just going to skip that. It's a very good team, Tony. A very good team, Tolly, as well. But it's not
slight issue with it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go for it, Keith.
I was thinking about who needs a rest, and like we were talking earlier, like Bukayo clearly needs a rest. So I was looking at Martinelli last week. He absolutely rinsed Newcastle.
Yeah,
he tore him to pieces, and I would have stuck with him. I'm not against Trossard being there because I think actually across the entire Premier League, he's probably been the best signing for anyone.
Yeah,
he was like nobody was even talking about him in January. Then all of a sudden, look at what he's done. I don't even know how many assists he's got. Was it 7 or 8 assists since he joined us? Something like that. I don't know.
Something like that, yeah.
But I wouldn't be dropping Martinelli at the moment. If I can, mind you, it's Tony, so I'll jump in on him. I don't mind that. Tony is mad.
Yeah, Tony will listen to this back later in Spain, so it's fine. You can say what you want. You can say anything about Holding today as well. You can get away with it, so it's absolutely fine. Someone has actually picked Holding. It wasn't actually Tony, so it is surprising. We'll move, but big up to that team. This is the next team. This is the Holding team, picked by Miguel, Jonas, and Kelly. They've gone for Ramsdale, White, Holding, Gabriel, Kivior as left back, Jorginho, Xhaka, Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, Jesus. Right, G, I know you're going to have an issue with this. Yeah. So, crack on.
Not for me at all. Not at all. I mean, if you're going to pick this lineup, you may as well just, tell Katie's, agent to start looking for a new club. To be honest, because I think with Zinchenko not in the side, and considering the impact Kivior has had in that centre-back position next to Gabriel, I personally can't rationalise why we would go back to bringing Holding in to then putting Kivior on the left. Yes, he can play there, but he's not played there in an Arsenal shirt when we have, a ready-made replacement in KT sitting on the bench if he's fit. I mean, obviously it could work because Holding can play right centre-back, Kivior can play left-back, but I just think your first instinct would be to bring KT. He's had limited minutes. He came on against Newcastle. He had a very, very crucial interception, which led to our second goal. And let's be real, Holding, for me, I don't think Holding has let himself down. I think Holding has come into the squad, and I think he's done his best.
Yeah.
But for me, he's levels and levels and levels off Saliba. But from what I've seen of Kivior in the last couple of games, he's not close to him yet. He's not even close to him. So, I've always said I have nothing against Holding being Arsenal's 5th choice centre-back. I have no issues. But for me, we need 4 centre-backs that can compete, and we can rotate, and there is a like-for-like or as close as a like-for-like in terms of quality. For me, Holding doesn't offer that. But he is a top pro. He's a very good character to have in a dressing room. He's been there a long time, and I have no issues with him being a squad player. But for me, he's not a first choice, and he shouldn't be a second choice centre-back at Arsenal. So for me, no, I can't rationalise why Arteta or myself or any of the gentlemen that picked this team would pick this team, because I think the defence has looked a lot more assured since Holding's been out the side and Kivior's come in. And we only just saw last week what KT can do in an Arsenal shirt, and we've not seen enough of it this season.
Yeah, 100%. Keith, have you got the same issues as G on this one?
Yeah, I can only agree about 4,000,000% with G on this one. I can kind of see why this team has been picked from a certain context, but I would also expect if this was picked by Mikel Arteta, Kieran Tierney would be probably walking barefoot over broken glass with his Tesco's carrier bag to empty his locker at the Emirates. He would be straight out the door. That would be the ultimate snub for him. And again, with Rob Holding, he's got tons of stick lately on social media, and I haven't got a problem with Rob Holding, same as G.
No.
He's a great squad member. He's a great clubman. He's the sort of person I'd like to see us keep him around because, by all accounts, he has a really good impact on the other players, the younger players. When you watch the documentary, you see how he's talking to other people. He's the sort of person you need around. But he's Rob Holding. He's not the peak Sir Bobby Moore or Franco Baresi. He's Rob Holding, and he is what he is. But yeah, no, I can't have that back four. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Like I said, I asked many people, and some do think outside the box, just to basically just give us a talking point, and they do think a little bit differently to G because it upsets G. To be fair, and we always get upset G. Mind you, G a few weeks back did go with Saka at right back. So,
yeah, I'm telling you, Saka's the player right back. Listen, I'm telling you.
But Moss agreeing, not a bad shout, but Holding would have trouble with Brighton's offence. I think possible, but he's not a bad. I'm never going to say he's a bad defender because he's just not. He just doesn't fit the way that we play. That's the problem. Luke saying we need to sell Holding, doesn't suit how we play. We shouldn't. He shouldn't be an option even as a fifth choice centre back. Well, I think the links that we've got so far in the summer. Sorry, I keep covering your face, Keith. I'm going to put myself down.
That's fine. I'm not bothered about that.
There we go. But yeah, it's we're being linked with like Simakan and Gay. So I feel, and Holding is out of contract in 2024. So I feel it wouldn't surprise me if he was sold.
Yeah.
I think he's like 26, 27. So we could get a decent fee for him, not like ridiculous amounts, but it could be interesting. I know Tony will be absolutely happy if he goes to play somewhere first team. You know, he's a good defender. He just doesn't fit us, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Luke say we can't keep him just to be a cheerleader. Any squad player has to be a credible option. I 100% agree.
You know what it's very similar to? Yeah, it's very similar to. People might say I'm crazy. I don't know, but it's
yes,
how it makes sense in my head. It's very similar to Maguire in terms of, you know, no, but if you look at let me land. Okay. If you look at Maguire when he played at Leicester, was it Leicester?
Yeah.
I mean, Maguire in the Leicester City shirt, it worked. Do you know what I mean? Yes. Like they sat back, deep block. And anything that came in his path, he either hoofed upfield or he headed out. Nobody beat him in the air. And he scored tons of goals from set pieces. He looked like a top centre-back. But what the Manchester United scouts failed to realise is that Manchester United play a high line. So you put Maguire in a Manchester United team that play a lot more offensively than Leicester and play a high line, he's going to get done every single time because he's just not that type of defender. At Leicester, he wasn't expected to play a high line. He was just told, clean it up. Anytime the ball comes into the box, head it away, clear it. And in comparison to the Leicester players and the other centre-back at Leicester, he actually looked decent on the ball. And if you see him in an England shirt when he plays, he's not the worst on the ball. He's not. He's actually half decent when he's in possession. So that's how I kind of compare it. For me, with Holding, it's just a case of, like Luke said, he doesn't suit the way we play. And that's why I've not, gone on and on and on about it on social media and blasted the guy and abused the guy. And I wouldn't do that anyway. But I just see a player that plays to the best of his ability in a system that just doesn't suit him. And at the end of the day, that's not his fault. It's not his fault that he's at Arsenal. It's not his fault that, he's been asked to play or he's been required to play because Saliba's gone out injured. He goes into every single match and he gives everything. Unfortunately, he's just not of the same ability as Saliba. So we can bang on about, who I hold accountable are those at Arsenal. I will hold Arteta accountable, Edu accountable. They're the ones that are putting together a squad. They're responsible for putting together a squad that can maintain, obviously, aim to maintain a title, season-long run. At the end of the day, it's not going to work for Holding. Holding will leave Arsenal and go to a club that play a different style of football, and he will look a much better player because he will be in a system that he's comfortable with. So that's why I just don't bang on about Holding, because for me, the problem's not Holding. the problem is we've kept on to a player that doesn't suit the way we play. It makes no sense. It's trying to put a circle in a square hole. It doesn't make any sense. So we can bang on about how poor he is. He's not. He's just suited to a very different style of play. Like I said, Maguire. So it don't sound too crazy now, does it?
Yes. It still sounds crazy. 80 million compared to 2 million. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, I totally get what you mean, because Maguire, it's the wrong system for United. That's all it is. He's still the same defender.
Yeah. It
just doesn't fit at Man United. The 80 million is nothing to do with him. That is not his fault. He doesn't say you must pay 80 million quid for me. I don't agree. Everyone knows my opinions on Maguire in England. Should never be there. But he's not a bad defender. He's just playing in the wrong system. Holding should be the new club mascot or changing room hype man. Jokes aside, sorry, Rob, love you still, but you're simply not good enough for the Arsenal first 11. He's not good enough for the first 22, if I'm honest.
He's not.
They're talking about Wayne Simmons. I have no idea who that is. If I'm guessing it might be ice hockey or American football. I have no idea. That's why I said I won't blame Holding. Yeah. Arteta is the one who threw him under the bus by asking him to play a style of play that's he's not capable of. And to be fair, and I know G's probably going to jump on me, we have got youth players that are playing our system, because that's how we do it at Arsenal, under 21s, under 18s, all play Arteta's system, that could have come in and surprised a few, like Will Waters, Zach.
You know what? I'm not going to jump on it, because, like I said, it makes sense. I've been in previous seasons, I've been very critical of Arteta, and this season I've been absolutely, overwhelmingly praising him. But that period where Saliba was out injured, and his reluctance to change what clearly, like you no disrespect to Stevie Wonder, but you had to have been Stevie Wonder to not be able to see that it just didn't work with Holding playing, and I understand, because there's a fine line between, criticism and abuse. And I was completely against the abuse that Holding was getting on social media. But I will never abuse him. I would never abuse any Arsenal football player, regardless of how they play. But it was clear to me that, and it's not even to say he was to blame for a lot of those results, because there were other things that happened and poor performances across the team, as a reason why we dropped points. But it's clear, it's so evident that he just doesn't suit, and he's incapable of playing the football we play. And when I see the impact Kivior's had since coming into the squad recently, that's why I said in hindsight is a beautiful thing. But it just shows that maybe had he come into the side maybe a couple of games before, we might be sitting in a very different position here. But yeah, and I think you're right. I think, if we've got players in the youth setup, in the youth system, that are playing the way we play and are capable of playing the way we play, why not? Well, why haven't we played them? So I think that, for me, I think on the whole, Arteta has had a phenomenal season as Arsenal manager. But I do think in key moments, there will be parts where I think even he himself will look back and say, I probably could have done something different. But that's what it's about, and it's about reflecting, it's about learning, it's about moving on to next season.
Yeah, 100%. How I describe Arteta right now, he hasn't got his learner plates on him. He's got that. Is it the green P that you have when you first pass the test? He's currently coaching like that. He's just he's still new, but he's definitely getting better and better, and he's definitely got things to learn. Sorry, Keith, were you going to say something there, mate?
I was going to add to what G just said. The whole Saliba Holding thing, we know how much of an impact Saliba with his back injury has had. But with Holding sitting next to Gabriel became a worse player. Ramsdale became a worse player. Ben White became a worse player. It's almost like they obviously weren't as confident with Holding in the back four. And it's almost like Gabriel, it seemed like he was feeling the need to babysit him a little bit. Yeah. But now since Kivior's come in, you see those three players I've just mentioned, they've all improved. Their confidence is back. And I can kind of see why Arteta didn't want to throw Kiwior in against, Haaland and City in case it destroyed his confidence, because he came on as sub against Liverpool. And to start with, it reminded me when Koscielny made his debut against Liverpool. It was just shocking to watch.
Yeah.
But now you look at how he's grown into it. And I would like to think that there would be training sessions after Saliba got injured where Arteta would be looking at Kiwior alongside Gabriel. Maybe did, maybe didn't. I don't know. We're not there, are we? But yeah, I agree again with G. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. And if he'd have come in sooner, who knows?
Yeah, let's go to some comments before we get in the last couple of squads. Need a new formation. Mikel Arteta off, Saliba down. That was a possibility, but like we've said, Kiwior has come in and taken Saliba's role, no problem whatsoever. Arteta should change things up. When I said he should before we went to Anfield, yeah, he did say that. I was told I should stick to FIFA. Then we went on the full game. Wait, this is the problem. I people have got to understand you're allowed to have a difference of opinion without attacking someone.
Yeah,
absolutely.
This is why I do these squad lineups. There's always loads now, and I know G doesn't agree with a lot of them, but there is fault into their madness sometimes.
Yeah.
And this is why I do it. I want people to let them have some time to think about what they want to pick. You don't have to agree with Arteta. There's nothing wrong with that. So we're going to go into the team that's chosen by Mehmet. I'm trying to work out what he's actually done differently. Oh, he's gone for Martinelli up front, Trossard on left, and Jesus. I was trying to work out what was different then. But yeah, so big up to Mehmet for doing that. I'm going to just a quick question because we've basically covered most of the team. I'm going to start with you, Keith. Any issues with having Martinelli up front for you?
No, I think ultimately Martinelli will end up as a central striker. I know he's tried it a couple of times. I think he tried it against West Brom a couple of years ago. But obviously he was 2 years younger then, and it was awful. But I think ultimately he will end up in the middle as a spearhead. Just look at his pace and his energy levels.
Yeah.
And no, I'm not too disappointed with that at all.
Yeah, G, what about you, mate?
I think long term, I can somewhat agree that Martinelli is probably going to turn out to be a very good centre forward. Right now, I wouldn't play him at centre forward. I think right now we have much more polished players in that position. I mean, I think Jesus is a better player at centre forward right now. I think Trossard is a better player at centre forward right now. I even think Eddie is a better player at centre forward right now. If we're talking about the number 9 centre forward position, I think all those 3 players are a lot more polished in that position. But long term, for this game, I wouldn't do it.
Okay, Moss says it's a decent shout. I like what Mehmet's tried here because he knows. I think he might have picked on the fact that Martinelli is my favourite player at Arsenal at the moment. My dirty winger, so I think he's just tried to do that for me. But big up to Mehmet. And the final team is chosen by Josh and Ben, and these are the only two that have gone with Partey. And there's obviously a change on the right because they feel that Saka needs a change, and someone is not being picked. So he's gone for White, Kiwior, Gabriel Tierney. Saying Partey's back in, Xhaka, Odegaard, Fabio Vieira is out on the right, Martinelli and Jesus. We'll start with you first, G, on this one. We'll just talk about Partey and Fabio Vieira because
I mean, I think Jorginho will feel somewhat hard done by if he doesn't play against Brighton, because I think he came in and the last 2 games he's been absolutely exceptional. Really has. You know, one could argue both performances were close to being man of the match performances in that midfield. So I think if you look at Partey's recent form compared to the impact Jorginho has since he's come into the side, I'd be slightly surprised if Arteta goes with Partey. Having said that, I'm not going to be alarmed, because if Partey turns up like we know he can, arguably one of the best midfielders in the Premier League, if not world football, but we just don't know which Partey we're going to get. In terms of Fabio Vieira, I can only go by what I've seen. And what I've seen of him in a Porto shirt, and what I've seen of him in an Arsenal shirt on the wide, I've not been impressed. I see him more in that kind of Odegaard type role. He's got that, as I like to say, that defense splitting pass in him. He's got quick feet. He's a very talented, gifted player. I don't think he has had the impact that we all would have liked, but I'm willing. I've seen enough in Fabio Vieira to be more patient with him. Some players adjust very quickly. Some players take a little bit more time. I've seen enough quality in the matches he's played to suggest that he's going to be an absolute baller at Arsenal. It's just probably going to take him a little bit of time. But anytime I've seen him out wide in an Arsenal shirt, and I saw him out wide in an Arsenal shirt in Europe, and I think maybe in one of the cup games, he looked lost. He didn't seem to quite have that burst of pace and even that strength needed. When you look at the pace and the strength that both Saka and Martinelli possess in terms of, they're not huge, but you can't knock them off the ball easily. They can kind of put their back to goal. They can turn a defender. They've got that kind of pace, whether it be short bursts or Martinelli, he can kind of do it for a bit of a longer stretch. But I just don't see him as having that kind of impact and that pace and that directness to be a winger. So I know he can do a job there, but in a game against Brighton where we really need to win, if to have any chance of obviously, potentially winning the league, I think this would be a stretch too far in terms of experimenting for me.
What about you, Keith?
I was a little bit shocked when I saw this lineup, to be honest, for these two players. I'm fairly certain when Partey does come back into the team, whether it be as a starter or freshen things up in the second half, I'm fairly certain he'll bounce right back in. He's got something to prove now, and he's realised that he's not undroppable and he's got competition, but not at the moment. As G said, Jorginho has been outstanding the last couple of games. I think he got man of the match from Sky Sports. You see it when I think Odegaard was expecting. Yeah. No, I wouldn't be dropping Jorginho anytime soon. And exactly the same with Vieira. Seeing him out wide, it's not his role. Some players just aren't suited to that. The times I've seen him play well is when he's replaced Odegaard or he's replaced Xhaka. He suits the middle of the park. He hasn't got that turn of pace to be that effective out wide. And he is. I know we like our players to cut in. I personally like an old-fashioned winger to get down to the byline and get the ball in. Not on the right, but no. I mean, we spent a fair bit of money on him, and he will get there. He's just not there yet. So no, that's a no for me.
No, that's fine. It's like I said, I just give people the options, and I have no issues with what they do. As long as they don't put Ramsdale up front, I will then have an issue with it. But other than
right back,
yeah, exactly. If I have a big issue, I will say, "Are you sure?" And they'll go, "Yeah." All right, fair enough.
These guys were getting onto me when I put Saka right back. They were like, "Oh, you've been hitting the brandy or something, Graham."
I will blame the pre-move brain cells. Luke saying here, Partey has to earn his spot back in the team. Given who we're linked with in the summer, he's going to have a job doing it. 100%. Especially when we're meant to be signing.
But it might push him to the next level, or it will be the end. One either way.
Yeah. Exactly. But it is challenge time, people. Let's get ready to do it. Okay, so G, you know the rules. It's 5 from the Brighton, 6 from the Arsenal. Keith is going to get 3 choices because he's our guest. So it will alternate. So it'll be Keith, then G, back to Keith, back to G. No conferring. There is no setup here. Whoever Keith picks, G's going to have to be happy with it. Simple as that. Right, Keith. It's the formation that Arsenal go for due to the fact we're the home, so we get home advantage with the formation. So who's your first Brighton player going to be? And you can have injured as well and suspended. So
I am going to go CDM Caicedo.
Okay. G?
Yeah, I had this conversation before backstage. How to pronounce his name? I'm going for the left.
Okay.
Estupinan.
Yeah, let's see if I can actually spell him. There we go.
Estupinan.
Yeah.
Pronunciation
that. Keith, your second choice, please.
Okay, right back. Used to play for Brighton, but now he's our boy, Benny.
Okay. Oh, and we've got to stick with Brighton first.
It's Brighton.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No, it's even I was typing his name and I was going, yep.
In which case, I'll go for Dunk.
Lewis Dunk. Okay.
Yeah, I like him.
Yeah, I like him. Doesn't get enough credit for me. G.
Ooh. You know what it is? It's a case of who do I want to see out of the Arsenal side.
Here we go. Tactical picking now.
Because there's so many of their players I love. Oh man, I'm gonna go with McAllister in that number 8.
Number 8, yeah.
Yeah.
2-6. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, that's McAllister. So Keith, your final choice for Brighton.
I've got one more. I don't really want to pick any more Brighton.
It's part of the challenge, unfortunately.
I know. Do you know what? In the interest of giving young Mr. Martinelli a rest, I'm going to put Armoury.
Okay.
He's top drawer in Matoma.
Yeah, he really is.
I was really tempted to pick Ferguson. Really tempted.
There was.
Can I change that? Can I change that, actually?
Yeah, you can have Ferguson if you want.
Yeah, we'll have Ferguson. I don't really want to drop Gabby, and obviously it's a game, so it's not.
I was really tempted, but I just feel personally McAllister is an upgrade on Xhaka. So, but I was really tempted to pick Ferguson.
Yeah.
That way, the lady that I spoke to at Brighton, she also had Ferguson, but changed it as well. So don't worry, you're not the first person that's changed it today. Right, we'll go with the Arsenal players now. So I'm going to guess it's Ramsdale in goal.
Yep.
Happy with that?
Yeah.
Right back, you want Ben White?
Yep.
I think so, yeah.
Saka and right back, isn't it?
Unbelievable. Right. Centre back. Now, you both have to agree who you want to choose. So it's...
You guys keep.
I'll say Gabriel.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Now he's the fourth one on the list. There he is. Right. The final midfielder for the Arsenal. Again, you both have to agree.
It's got to be old, man.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to guess Starboy on the right.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure he just did an Elvis impression then. And is it Martinelli on the left?
Yeah, it's got to be.
Okay, so this is the team chosen by Keith and G. Gone for Ramsdale in goal, Ben White, Lewis Dunk, Gabriel Estupinan, Caicedo, Odegaard, McAllister, Martinelli, Saka, and Ferguson. Right, so as you know, G, someone else picks teams as well. Not just you. Let's have a look, see what they've gone for. They have gone for, right. So Sarah has picked the team on the left. Tony has gone for the team on the right. For me, because I obviously decide who the winner is. And it is tough to be fair because it's all very good quality.
Yeah. Brighton are a good side, man.
Yeah, I know. This is why I do this. This is why I do the challenge, because it makes you think about the opposition a little bit more and have a little bit more respect from them. Because you look at that team, if that was Arsenal's team, you'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
So, and we've done this countless occasions. I know we've had a few. FC Zurich was one we had to do it with. It wasn't so strong, but it does make you think about the Premier League teams differently. Maybe not so. teams from Switzerland, but never mind. So it's just tough. This one. This is tough.
Come on, Bobby. You know what you want to do.
See, I don't think Tony doesn't win. Tony's third for me, mainly because he's gone for Trossard up front. For me, Ferguson and Jesus are above him. For me, anyway. So Tony's definite no. I'm gonna have to give it to you two.
Yeah, man.
And the only reason
that's probably like the first one I've won all bloody season.
And the reason I'm not going to give it to Sarah is because she's gone for Tariq Lamptey, and for me, as you know, as G knows, I'm a right back, so I think Ben has been the best right back in the Premier League for me this season. So you've won it on the right back basis. So well done, guys. Really good. I know Moss has done it, and I did star it from earlier. He's gone for Ramsdale, White, Saliba, Colwill, Estupiñán. Everyone's just testing me with that name. I can't stand saying it. Saicedo, McAllister, Odegaard, Matoma, Saka. No, because he hasn't picked Martinelli. So no.
Oh yeah, no.
He's my man.
Yeah,
so no, not happening.
It's game over. Don't pick Gabby.
Does anyone know why McAllister's got that gap in his name? I know you mentioned it earlier, Bobby, but
I think because it's something to do with Scottish heritage, but I don't think he wants it to be because he's got a couple of brothers that play football as well, and they've got exactly the same spelling. He has got, I think his grandparents that are Scottish, but I think because of let's not get into too much of history, but I think it's to do with the history between Argentina and us.
Right.
Which I think he doesn't want it looking like he is part Scottish. Yeah, so I think that might be. I will look into it, and I'll message G to let you know if I find out exactly what it is. But I think it might be that. Benji wins it for me. You know me, I love my right backs. My team are actually playing on Sunday, to change the subject, in the Northern Premier National League final. St Albans are playing Oxford City. If they win that, they go into the National League. So I am very excited for Sunday because it is my old team. So big up St Albans. Agreed. That's tough. Agreed. Keith's and G's team. Well, there you go. Well done, Citizen. Okay. I'm struggling. And Moss saying, he had a grandpa, McAllister. He had a little ginger in him. Right. This is not going to help. I know this because I am ginger. However, not every Scottish person is ginger. Just to put that categorically out there. I am part Scottish and I am ginger, but not every single Scottish person is ginger. Oh, my word. Right. Predictions.
Oh, gosh.
Just lost. Right, guys, in the comments, please put your predictions down. I will write them down and big you up if you do get them right, but we've not been getting any right for ages now. So the pressure's on. Keith, what are you going for this weekend's game?
I'm going for 2-0 to the Arsenal. I think we're going to keep a clean one.
Lovely. G?
We've not been keeping clean sheets at home, and I think Brighton are going to have a little bit too much up top for us to not concede. So I'm going to go 3-1 Arsenal.
Okay. I'm going to go with a 2-2. I think Brighton will, because I think De Zerbi will have had a really good chat with them. I should put that nicely. Regarding the Everton result, I think they will come to us and they'll do something special. But big up to Sarah and Tony who work for Brighton. They've also gone for predictions. Sarah went for 2-2 with me. Tony, not our Tony, this is a Brighton Tony. He actually went for a 4-2 win for Brighton. If he is right, he will be donating to charity. He has said this because I said, are you kidding? So he's going to donate to charity if he gets that one right. So big up to Tony, Brighton man, for doing that one, but you're mad. But there you go. Big up to Albert JTV. Hope you're doing well, Albert. What a fantastic panel. Bobby Valentino, Lord Grenfell, and Keith Jenkins.
Oh, mate.
Oh, please. Is your surname actually Stevens?
No, it's not. It's Yates.
I thought that was
when Albert came up, right, because named G, Lord Granville.
Yeah.
And I said to her, I said, "Oh, mate, you got to come up with a name for me." And this was months ago, and I honestly thought he'd forgot about it. Then all of a sudden, he just drops that on me.
Yeah. He either calls me Lord Granville, and because I moved to Ramsgate, I was from London. He calls me Ramsgate Rude Boy. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. He comes up with different names every other week. It's brilliant.
Big up to Albert though. Just thought he'd say pop in and say hello. Smash the like, people. Thank you ever so much. Albert's lovely. Hibs, the Hibs are here. Yeah, he sports the Hibs. I'm a Rangers fan. ACT. Don't know those Albert references at all. Don't know Shaking Stevens. What on earth? This is going to be a very tight game, but I will go for Arsenal just to sneak it 2-1. Not 100% confident now. So Albert has gone for 2-1. Anyone's watching it on playback, please put your comments and your predictions in the comments. I will get back to you on that. But guys, fantastic stream. Really appreciate it. Let's take that comment off. Keith, where can people find you, my friend?
They can find me largely on Twitter. My Twitter handle is the Mad Rambling one. It's a long story about how I got that name. I'll fill you all in at some other point. But yeah, you can find me on there. I haven't done any content of my own for ages. I'm kind of trying to write a book at the moment. So once I get that out of the way, I should probably jump back in and do some more. But thank you very much, gents, for having me on, and thank you everyone in the chat for being nice and kind to me on my kind of debut. Cheers, nice one.
My pleasure. Thank you for coming on. G, where can I find you, mate?
Yeah, I mean, it's good to be back. I can't remember the last time my stream was. I think it's been a couple of weeks while I've been trying to sort out the madness that is my personal life at the moment. But yeah, no, it's good to be back. Good to obviously stream with you, Bobby, and like I said, have Keith on the show. He was a massive part of like the beginning of my journey in YouTube. So met him on Twitter, had him on the show, and I've become really, really good friends. So glad you could come on, and massive thank you for coming onto the show. It's been an absolute pleasure. But yeah, you can find me on, well, not of late on Twitter, but you can find me on Twitter. My handle is GTalksArsenal. But yeah, before I go, just like to thank everybody in the chat. If for whatever reason you haven't liked the stream, please do. And if for whatever reason you're not subscribed to the channel, please do. We're very fast approaching 1K, and we'd love to hit the milestone before the end and close of the season. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again.
Thank you very much. You'll see me again tomorrow in Full Time Sports Network. I am covering the National League playoff final between Chesterfield and Notts County, because everyone knows how much I love the National League. Proper football, proper tackling. Love it. It is, honestly, it's absolutely been brilliant. The semi-finals, as I've warned everyone, were absolute classic games to watch. They're absolutely brilliant. And I'll be back on Sunday to do the Arsenal Brighton watch-along, and I'll also be back to do the reaction shortly after as well. So I appreciate everyone being here. Thank you ever so much to Keith. Thank you ever so much to G Talks. For now, we're definitely out of here. And as always, come on, you Gunners. Take care, everyone. Take care.